Hi. Have you ever been overwhelmed by your emotions? Have you ever had an angry impulse take over or buried the feeling deep inside? And what about guilt? Have you ever just been so buried in guilt about something that you just didn't feel okay about yourself anymore? My answer to all three of those is yes. And I'm betting yours is too. My name is Dr. Gerry Dunne. I go by Gerry. I'm a psychologist, and I've been a teacher since I was 21 years old. And I'm really interested in the topic of anger. It's been an issue for me all my life. I wrote this book, Anger and Conflict Management Personal Handbook, and I used it when I taught anger and conflict management at my local community college for over 10 years. Why do I teach anger management? I teach it because it helps me learn it, or maybe the better way to say it is that it helps me to unlearn a lot of ways of thinking and behaving that I grew up with that were not helpful. And I'm learning to replace those habits with better ways to look at the world and to think and to interact with other people that makes my life go much more smoothly and a lot more fun. And so in this series of video presentations, what I'd like to do is share with you how anger and guilt complicate each other all the time and form a vicious circle that just brings us down. Hi, this is Cuddles. I also would like to share my thoughts with you about how to understand and use your emotions and how to use your right mind more of the time and your wrong mind less of the time. 5 natural steps that I came up with for managing yourself when you are feeling angry, and how to keep from mismanaging your anger, what those behaviors are that you don't want to do anymore. There's also how to learn from guilt. Find the lessons that guilt teaches us, and making sure that we don't repeat those mistakes. So I want to tell you about a friend of mine. He has had many addictions, broken relationships, time in jail, you name it. In his earlier life, he had a huge amount of anger at himself. And he also carried a ton of guilt. Now, you would never think that. He's one of the most successful and happy people I've ever met. He's a great guy. And I asked him, what changed? What happened that made you become who you are now? And he said, well, I learned the lessons that guilt taught me. What to stop doing and what to start doing, how to see the world differently, how to look at things in a whole different way, to make a shift, and to think in different ways about myself and about other people. But most important, he said, I forgave myself. You may ask, what's the difference between forgiving yourself and excusing yourself? Excuse me. When you forgive yourself, you look at yourself honestly. You have the courage to own up to the mistakes you've been making. You try to make amends and right the wrongs. You let yourself feel those terrible feelings. You don't try to bury them. That takes courage and strength. And when you do that, you are able then to register in your mind what it is that you don't want to repeat, and then you let it all completely go. You free yourself from the misery that guilt brings. Now, when you excuse yourself, you don't do any of those things. You say things like this to yourself. Well, they deserved it. Don't blame me, wasn't my fault. Or, who cares, no big deal. And then you put it all down in here, right? But you know what? It doesn't go away. It'll bite you in the butt sooner or later. I sure know that because it's happened to me. So I really hope that you will subscribe to my series of YouTube videos on anger without guilt. A little later on here in the garden, I'm about to plant some seeds, cilantro. I've got my hoe here. This is what I use to release a lot of my anger. It works for me, but I know the slugs and the weeds don't much like it. And when you subscribe and we do these together, we're going to plant a lot of valuable seeds together. In our next video, we're going to take a good look at what your right mind does for you and what your wrong mind does to you. I really hope you'll join me. Take care.